The NFL scouting combine is fully underway and the news is abounding. We're going to get into the latest rumors today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins, and we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. I'm a Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One issue, a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, gonna keep my head on a swivel. NFL media members are throwing down here in Indianapolis, according to reports. And it's a great segue into the Stafford Brady news because it seems like that's what spurred on the incident here in Mobile between Fox's Jordan Schultz and NFL Network's Ian Rappaport getting into a verbal altercation in a Starbucks yesterday.
We've had some source wars, right, between that and then the Rob Gronkowski scoop that came out that was immediately shut down. And like Ian Rappaport's been the guy that's coming through saying, "Hey, your scoop's no good. Let me flex here a little bit. Let's put the toothpaste back in the tube and see if we can't make sure that we don't get Tom Brady and the Raiders in trouble here." But this is absolutely fascinating.
How incredibly convenient. Just a couple years after Matt Stafford just so happens to be at the same resort as Sean McVay in Cabo, Matthew Stafford just so happens to conveniently be skiing in the same mountains in Montana. This guy's everywhere. He does everything.
And so a lot of the feedback that I've gotten or received on the Twitter machine, because I screenshotted like a series of tweets, one being the initial Jordan Schultz report that's like, Matthew Stafford's at Tom Brady's house talking about becoming a Raider. And then, very quickly, like Michael Silver's like, oh, this is very curious. Is this tampering? And then, of course, Ian Rappaport comes over the top. Yeah. They just happened to be at the same place. This was not organized. And then you have a lot of people that are coming back like, what's so hard for the media to understand here? Everyone just hates Tom Brady. And, do they not realize that he was given permission to seek a trade? Well, folks, that's not what happened. His agent was given permission to speak to other teams. We don't know. Nobody knows if that included, Matthew Stafford, go hang out with the minority owner of the team at his house. Those are two very, very different things. And so unless you have that information, which I'm guessing you don't, and you don't know either, and it's perfectly fine to have some questions about what's going on here.
Have the question of the
just
legitimacy of the arrangement that isn't an arrangement. But man, the more this week goes on, the more this Stafford thing is picking up, dude. I mean, it is.
He ain't coming back to the Rams, dude.
It doesn't feel like it. It does not feel like
crazy to me. It's so crazy to me because I feel like he's the best plan for quarterback for the Rams this year.
He is, but the pivot opportunity and getting a substantial asset. All right, so here's a question for you, Joe. The Rams are probably going to want a first-round pick for a quality starting quarterback, especially relative to the compensation he's going to get, but I don't know that they'll get one. Would you rather, if you're the Rams, from a compensation perspective, get a pick in the mid-30s this year or potentially a conditional pick in 2026 that could have the ceiling to be a first-round pick for Matthew Stafford?
I mean, we're talking about the Raiders and Giants, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the teams who pick 34 and 37. So would I rather have 34 or 37 this year or some type of a deal that potentially gets me a first-round pick, right? And I'm sure those incentives would be, okay, Matthew Stafford plays X amount of games, and the team reaches a certain level of success.
Mm-hmm.
Because so then if that happens, then like the team's probably not. It's a playoff team, and so you're talking about a pick that's in the 20s, right?
Right. It's probably the more attractive option, especially when you consider the Rams' long-term quarterback plans may be dependent on having additional assets to go get a guy.
Right. So that's the other layer of this, right? Because it feels like the Rams' pivot is Aaron Rodgers.
Right. Which, if you told me I can make the transition from one late stage career quarterback to another late stage career quarterback, regardless of whether I think Stafford is incrementally or substantially better than Rodgers at this stage or not, if I get a marquee asset that's going to help me transition, and presumably you're cheaper this year at quarterback,
so you're going to have 2 picks in the 20s, basically, is what the Rams would have next year.
Presumably, yeah.
It smells like, I mean, did those? There's going to be a lot of competition for these quarterbacks next year, it feels like.
Yeah.
And if you were a team that was willing to move back,
there's not going to be too many opportunities because I think a lot of teams are going to want to trade back, right? So
but they don't want to go back to the 20s, right? They're going to have to do something to get even closer, like the Bills had to do with the Josh Allen trade. They had 20 and 22, but then they had to get to 11, and then they got to 7.
But I mean, the Rams' opportunities to add marquee draft capital in 2026. They're picking at 26. You're not going to trade back and get a 1 next year in this draft class with the depth of players in the tier that they're picking, right? There's too much competition for teams that in this year are probably going to want to move back. So this might be the only pathway to them adding like a marquee 1st/2nd round pick next year, barring trading a young player that still has their whole career ahead of them.
I guess I see that. I still think the best path forward is just with Matthew Stafford, but if that can't happen, I guess I would take the opportunity to get the 1st round pick if my whole plan here is to eventually get to this promised land of a young rookie quarterback on a remainder of team that is very robust, right? Mm-hmm. That would presumably be the case with all their developing young talent. That gives you your best chance to get there. And so if you're willing to not maximize your window that exists right now, which is crazy to me.
But they're playing the long-term game, right? It's the long-term value proposition versus just playing in the here and now. And this feels like a have your cake and eat it too type.
I don't know, man. Like you're the long game takes you to hopefully being where you are right now. You're here right now. It's a National Football League.
They also won a championship 4 years ago, right? Like
that takes the urgency off, I guess.
I certainly think it changes your perspective and ability to play the long-term game in the way that we have romanticized what being well-established and well-tenured and having a certain level of trust allows you to do to how you operate running the team.
Let's hope Sean McVay doesn't get any itches about spending more time with his young family and broadcasting, because it'd be a tough world to find yourself in 3 years from now if this doesn't all come together. I'd be nervous about all of that. So bird in hand's better than 2 in the bush.
Scared money don't make money, Joe.
Yeah, well, I don't have to be scared because I have Matthew Stafford in a Super Bowl caliber roster.
Is he happy? Is he happy with his situation though? No, they're
evidently not if he's stumbling into Tom Brady in Montana.
And his wife Kelly's getting on podcasts talking about how they're not happy about moving on from Cup. They want to compete. They want to win. Cooper's going. They're not happy about that, but he wants more compensation.
Well, what reasonable person can't look at the last few years of Cooper Kupp and his age and feel, you know what?
Great guy. Great guy.
Yeah, great guy. Great guy. That's always mattered in the National Football League and when it comes to this point in a player's career. This is nuts to me, dude. All right. We'll get to more on the other side of it, folks. Be sure to stick with us.
All right, Joseph. This was not the only news that came out yesterday, including some late news last night after some news earlier in the day about the same player. Abdul Carter had his media availability, disclosed he wasn't going to be practicing or doing the workouts because he's still recovering from the shoulder injury that he suffered in the college football playoff. Okay, little bit of a bummer. Expect you to blow the doors off because you're a Penn State athlete, right? And then we found out Tyler Warren wasn't testing either, and it's like, oh man, who's been drinking all the secret sauce that they have in there for their NFL Combine strength and conditioning stuff?
They're going to go back to Penn State and do the thing. Well, not Abdul Carter, but Tyler Warren.
Well, right. And then the news came out last night that not only is Abdul Carter still recovering from the shoulder injury that he suffered in the college football playoff, he also has a stress reaction in his foot, which was unveiled during the medicals. And he has an option to have surgery or not have surgery. If he has surgery, it's about an 8-week recovery timeline, which would have him at this stage maybe medically cleared for like rookie minicamp, depending on like how well the timeline would be. Like might be fringe, but would be fine for like OTAs, would be fine for training camp, no questions asked. But Carter has to make the decision of what he wants to do. And as a player who, I'll tell you, one of the other drum beats this week, in addition to Matthew Stafford's not going to be a Ram, is there feels like a lot of momentum that the Tennessee Titans are looking at picking Abdul Carter with the number 1 overall pick. And then this news came out last night, and it's very interesting to see how that domino effect is going to go from here.
So it's a really fascinating situation for Tennessee, who owns a number 1 overall pick, has a massive need at quarterback. The momentum is them for them to not take a quarterback. You lean into this defensive player that now has 2 injuries, right? That is he's dealing with, and neither one feel threatening, right? I mean, not even in jeopardy of missing potentially even the OTAs that start in mid-March with either situation. But it's not necessarily this profile that you're looking for when you have that pick, and you're not going to go with a quarterback. And you're going to go with the different. You want that to be clean, right?
Check all the boxes, right? Like,
yeah, and you're going to get an incomplete athletic profile. There's going to be medical things to be mindful of. Not that either appear to be overly concerning. It's just not exactly what you want when you're lining up and the momentum is trending towards Abdul Carter being your pick.
Oh, and doesn't that serve as a testament to the quarterback class, where despite not having traditional boxes checked, there still feels to be, and we'll see if it changes now that it's come out that he may have surgery, but he also may not need surgery. They did the messaging last night from Rosenhaus was, we're in a position to decide what we're going to do, and then the reporting said, he can prove to teams he doesn't need surgery by working out when he has his pro day. So like, this might be nothing. It might be something. It doesn't have to be anything. If you get the surgery, you're just not going to get a workout for him. It's a really unique backdrop that I don't remember a dynamic like this existing in our time working the draft.
No, for sure not. And Abdul Carter's a really good prospect, but he's not the type of guy that you look at and think, man, number 1 overall pick. The Titans have come out and said that they're not going to move away from generational talent. And they've also admitted that they think that there is a generational talent in this draft. All the belief is that that's Abdul Carter, but should we be more open to Travis Hunter as a guy that fits the bill of really, really unique, plus skills? He's got superpowers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does this open up the conversation where, dude, it's not even March. There's no way that this is all just already figured out, Like, I think for a number of reasons, we should be open to a lot of other possibilities. And this Carter thing with his foot at least nudges me towards maybe there's more to this puzzle at number 1 overall.
So I think it was I think it was Tennessee came out and said they had him as a corner on their board. But a lot of the feedback this week so far from teams has reportedly been that there's more teams, I think, than you would expect to have him at wide receiver on their board.
I think what I like about that conversation is that there's different answers, right? Maybe they skew one way.
Right.
I don't have any convictions, man. I can change my mind multiple times a week on what I want to do with Travis Hunter. So, like, I guess as somebody who's trying to sort that out for myself, I like knowing that there's NFL teams that see it both ways.
Well, and that's the greatest appeal for this process that you can possibly have is it's all about how many pathways to success you can present to teams. And when you play on both sides of the ball at a very high level, that is the ultimate example of offering value to every team.
Yeah.
Which is where Travis Hunter sits. And I think he has the chance to be the big person who capitalizes on a lot of this uncertainty. And what happens if the Giants strike out with Stafford and they trade up to number one? Like that could be the other piece of this for Tennessee too, about really being strong with their messaging about, it trending towards Carter, because it makes, if New York really wants to go and get their guy, whoever that may be between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, if they feel that door is open, especially in a class where I think the value of picks is going to be lower than it is in other years if you're trading picks for picks because of the top of the class and some of the marquee positions at the top of the class. It takes me back to 2012 when Miami came up from 12 to 12
Deion Jordan trade
for Deion Jordan, and it cost like 42.
Yeah.
And that's it to go from 12 to 3.
Yeah, it's going to be multiple first-round picks in recent drafts, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I feel like moving up this year has the potential to be at a discounted rate versus what our standard expectation is in recent years of a trade-up cost because of these dynamics. So for Tennessee to really sit here and push Abdul Carter, I think it does behoove them in the sense that if they are receptive to not taking one of the quarterbacks, New York getting antsy if they strike out, being able to go up and get it, and then the Titans would be in the position to still pick him or Travis Hunter with their pick at number 3 anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot for Tennessee. If they go back to 3 and presumably the Giants come get their quarterback, you're guaranteed to get Carter or Hunter, which...
Well, and apparently Cleveland is in on the quarterback market.
When you say the quarterback market, do you mean the draft quarterback?
In the draft, well, apparently both from Adam Schefter.
As they should be, right? They should be.
Right. But that cost control player at that position, I guess, the analytically driven team, the way that Cleveland is, I guess there's some sense that they will be interested in selecting a quarterback, and they're going to have a chance to get one of the two that everybody perceives as the tops of the tops.
And potentially Kirk Cousins. I can't shake it, Kyle. I can't shake it.
I don't know. Terry Fontenot's pretty defiant. You're going to have to trade for Kirk if you want Kirk Cousins.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, Terry. Okay. All right. There's like a million players that were made available for trade, it feels like, yesterday. We'll talk about that here on the other side of it. Folks, be sure to stick with us.
Hit both my double bumpers today, Joe.
It's just, you talk about a growth mindset. Some people feel like there's not development, but
I'm just here to be coachable.
Yeah.
Show everybody that I'm easy to take instruction and want to be better.
It's good. It's important to you, Someone cares about it.
Did you see Detroit put out some stuff from Sam Laporta's interview?
Didn't see it, no.
From his combine interview with Dan Campbell.
Didn't see
really good. He was asked the question, why should coach draft you? Do you want to know what the first thing he said was?
I do.
Do you have any guesses?
Why? So Sam Laporta was asked, why should Dan Campbell draft you?
Yeah. So why should coach draft you this year? This is at the very end of the interview.
Because I'm the best tight end in the class.
First thing he says, because I'm a locker room guy. You think anybody that casually follows football would have guessed that would have been the first thing he would have said?
No, I mean, I didn't. I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but
right, I put you on the spot.
Yeah,
he said I can get along with most anybody in any locker room, and I'm a damn good player. Is what he said. But I thought it was very interesting that the first thing he said was locker room, like culture, and like that's a big thing that we have kind of, I don't want to say perseverated on, but it's been a bigger point of emphasis, I feel like, for our show, for that dynamic of talent allocation versus team building.
Yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And you got to think, like, they have an opportunity to think about, they know they're going to get that question, right?
Right.
He was prepared to answer it. And that's what he had all the time. He talked to his agent. He said, what are you going to do when they ask you this question? I'm going to say that I'm a locker room guy.
Locker room guy.
Locker room guy. Everybody loves a locker room guy.
Right. Put it on a t-shirt. It's like that guy who has a sweatshirt here that says, have you met with local team I cover yet?
Kyle, they're never going to quit doing it. It's like, and I feel bad for the players, right? This is your opportunity to meet with the national media and, you know, whatever obviously the media gets to dictate what comes up in those conversations. And the only thing these people want to ask is if they met with the team. Like, this guy's pursuing a dream. Like, there's so many things you can ask this football player about.
So that they can put out their high engagement punch list.
Yeah.
At the end of the media availabilities as a person who covers a singular team, that these are the players that the Carolina Panthers are meeting with here at the NFL Combine.
Yeah. Now everyone's got to overly react to the possibility of that player being on the team.
10,000 likes and 2 million impressions. And it's like people are now taking like the major analysts' mock drafts and they're aggregating them in the draft simulators and then tweeting out the picture from like PFF or PFN mock draft simulators and say, here's Bucky Brooks's 2.0 mock draft, and it's just a screenshot of all 32 picks. I'm like, this is why the sports media industry is just completely in shambles.
Yeah, and those mock drafts mean a lot to those publications, right? We've been in this space for a long time. They move the needle more than any other piece of content that I'm aware of. And, you know, like to take that content and
boil it down so you can have an organic post and you can collect all of the impressions off of it. And the incentivization for fans to go meet content creators at their homes, which is how they keep their jobs, it's really nasty work going on this year.
That's a good way to put it. Nasty work.
Yeah.
Nasty. So, Kyle, on the heels of this Abdul Carter news, the Titans have made
I don't know if the injury's in the heel of his foot or elsewhere in his foot.
Yeah. Wow. Really good. Really good. Really good. They made Harold Landry available for trade.
Yeah.
Along with about 6 other players yesterday that it kind of came out.
Which one was the weirdest name for you to see?
So it's John Allen, Harold Landry, Deebo Samuel, Jair Alexander, and Devon Godchow.
Jonah Jackson.
Oh, Jonah Jackson. Boy, what a flop of a free agent deal, only to find out that Bo Limmer was one of your answers on the interior. That one was always buyer beware, right?
3 years, $51 million, 1 year in.
Freaking guard contract. That's crazy, man.
So he's owed $9 million in cash next year. And there's absolutely no reason why I know the cash schedule for that contract. It's just, I just happen to know it, right? But he hasn't played more than 13 games since 2021. So, and then he's got $17 million in cash. Now, none of it's guaranteed, but $17 million in cash in 2026. I don't know that they're going to have a great market for that deal.
No, and I don't think, Kyle, I don't think a lot of these markets are going to be very robust for trading. Like, I bet John Allen just gets cut.
Probably.
Harold Landry, like the total fool's gold. Sack numbers are good.
Mm-hmm.
Win rate, pressure numbers are bad. Like,
yeah. Don't let a half dozen plays throughout the course of a 1,000 snap season.
Yeah, dude.
Paint your picture of what a player is at any stage, right?
He's not been the same since the 2022 ACL. Even though you look at his numbers, like, oh, he had like 12 sacks and 10 sacks. Like, that's a great player. Nope. Don't mess with that. Deebo Samuel. So first of all, great news for the 49ers that Trent Williams is returning. That feels like a big win.
Big win.
They didn't need to replace the whole offensive line, right? No, right. It's nice to get that guy back. But yeah, Deebo feels like, I don't know. We've been talking about how they should trade Deebo for 2 years, and now they're going to do it at the lowest point of his value, right? So
I think something gets done with that one though.
There's no doubt. Yeah, I think he gets traded. If
the free agent wide receiver market is putting guys that are not as accomplished as Deebo Samuel within a couple $1 million of Deebo Samuel last year before the cap went up, like I do think that is a place where a team will be comfortable with acquiring his owed money this year.
I hope it's not the Dolphins. I think Deebo Samuel is exactly the like type of player that Miami should be wanting to add. Trade away Tyreek Hill, bring in Deebo. I think that rounds out the offense in a really nice way.
I would be inclined to agree with you that it would make a lot of sense. I don't know that the stars are going to align for that to happen.
Well, yeah, I get that. There's money pieces. Just when I think about a destination for him.
Washington's
going to be such an attractive place for everyone we're talking about, right?
Yep.
Because the receivers and defensive linemen, right? It's like, yeah, that's what they need. Yeah. They have resources. Yeah. Yes, I think there's a lot of destinations, and I think for bringing on Deebo Samuel right now, it's like I think you're a little bit more. It's more digestible than like the player he was 3 or 4 years ago, right? Where he's going to be a piece. He's not coming in to be the savior of your offense,
right?
And
that's what maybe the expectation a couple years ago, based off the blow up year that he had when they put him in the backfield and he was carrying the ball a ton and all that.
But based on Ayuk and Pearsall and Jennings.
And then Kittle.
Yeah, dude, like, come on. I get it.
McCaffrey. Yeah. You can offload the 17 as you're getting ready to pay Purdy. I think that's probably a good idea.
And how about Jair Alexander, man? Like, obviously a good football player, but this dude hasn't been available. He's played 7 or less games in 3 of the last 4 seasons, man.
4 games, 14 games, 7 games, 7 games the last 4 years is what he's played. Not missed, played.
Played. I mean, I get he's 28. He's obviously a very, very talented player, but
kind of had like the shtick there the last 2 years too.
Super goofy stuff, no doubt. Yeah.
Like, there's a 0% chance I'm trading for that contract. So
no, dude.
So I think he's going to be cut.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of these guys are like, well, we're probably going to cut these names. Let's dangle them out there.
Yeah.
Devon Godchaux, you think anybody's lining up for that guy?
They gave him a 2-year extension 7 months ago.
It's insane. It was insane at that moment.
It was in every contract the Patriots have given Devon Godchaux has been an insane contract.
For like
since the moment he stepped into New England as a member of the Patriots, I've looked at the compensation schedule. I said, why?
This dude's making a great living for him and his family.
Brother, Devon's a great guy in the personality or in the community. He's a great personality. But it's a skill set you can find almost anywhere in any given year. And he's just continued to get not only new contracts, but like proactively re-upped contracts. And you just said it was July last year. They gave him a multi-year extension on his contract, and now they're giving him permission to seek trade. And I get there's a coaching change with Vrabel coming in, but it's a quick turnaround. So for a name like that, who you just made a new commitment to, a name like a Jonah Jackson, who just signed a free agent contract, I think the Jonah Jackson one is a good cautionary tale about overkill. And if they have a chance to get out of it, they'll be fine. But like, you do a simulated offseason for Buffalo, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in the process of finalizing my simulated offseason for the Dolphins. And the thing that I have a hard time with is how do you get an offensive line group, or how do you get any position group where there needs to be new blood added to it, how do you walk that line between free agency has to happen first? We have to make commitments first to feel comfortable with drafting and being free in the draft. And then you're free in the draft and you find a value of a good player like a Bo Limmer, right? And then your team dynamics change. So I think it's a good reminder of how these things don't happen simultaneously and you're not guaranteed things in the draft. So that's the Jonah Jackson situation for me that I think is just a sobering reminder of how hard it is to prep sometimes to be able to draft freely when free agency happens first, and you need to address some needs and kind of get the direction of your team pointed in the direction you want it to go.
But I also love from the Rams side of things that they're not pinning themselves in a corner that Jonah Jackson's a starter for them,
right? Because
they gave him the deal. It's like, well, this guy came in, got an opportunity, played better. We like where this is heading, even though this wasn't the big investment. Yeah. I think that's an important dynamic for any team where what you do with your opportunities is going to dictate who plays and who stays. And I mean, credit to them for that, right? I think it's easy. It would be easy to be like, well, we made this investment. We got to stick with it.
You think?
No, play your best guys.
You think Detroit calls?
I don't know. I think they really like Mahogany, right? So
yeah, but they got 2 guard spots in question.
They should, right? They should try to upgrade that Glasgow spot.
Would you give 6? Would you give 6 to get Jonah Jackson back for $9 million this year, and then like you can part ways with no guaranteed money?
Man, between like Jonah Jackson and Evan Brown, they have like the most random like guys that are out there. Bring like Glasgow, they always kind of feel like they can come back. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be the commitment I'd want to make to my other guard. I'd have to understand what, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
It feels like a good path, a good way to become a little more economic. Is he going to play between what, like Sewell and Ragnow, or Sewell and Becker? Like, I don't need a prize player.
You don't need a cash cow there. You just
I don't need it. Yeah,
just somebody. Let's keep our head above water and
sure.
Glasgow getting a little older was the challenge for him.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But that is going to do it for us here today on Locked On NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys as always for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here.